Hello! Welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. This channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things my kids may say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes that you find some inspiration along the way. We are on episode 74. It is the middle of November, year 2021. If you are new here, a warm welcome, and if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. It has been about 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, since I last recorded here. I had mentioned in the last episode that I just wanted to slow down a little in recording as the year wraps up. It is a busy time of year, and I just want to be mindful of my time. My videos, as always, are fully captioned, and you just click on that CC button below the video, or I think it might be on the screen, but somewhere along the bottom. And the links to what I talk about will be in the description box below this video. I think there's a little arrow or something that you can click on or show more. And the Ravelry project page links will be specifically marked separately. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy our little visit today. Our temperatures have been dropping. We got our first snow of the season, which some people are like, oh my goodness, it's snowing already. We usually have snow in October. It may not always stick, but we usually get some dusting of snow in October, and well, due to climate change, we didn't have snow in October. We had snow in November. It melted recently. I don't think all of it melted, but a lot of it did, especially where the sun hits. And yeah, so we have lows in the teens and 20s Fahrenheit overnight, and during the day it's like 30s, 40s. So yeah, it's definitely chilly. I was laughing to myself the other day because, you know, when we talk about seasons, some people go by like meteorological seasons, and some people go by like, what's the other way? Meteorological versus, well, now I can't think of the word. Well, if you know the word, you're probably yelling it at the screen, but I can't hear you, so it's like, if you think of September 1st being the first day of fall versus, you know, the fall equinox, which I think was September, was it 21st? But, you know, regardless of how you think of it that way, I feel like seasons are definitely something that you feel as well. So maybe add a third category in there. I don't know. For me, I feel like summer here is like maybe 2 months out of the year, maybe 3 this year because we had all those heat waves. Spring and fall usually get a month, maybe 2 months, maybe a month and a half. And then winter for us is like, I don't know, at least 6 months out of the year. If we usually get our snow in October, maybe it starts a little bit earlier, but I feel like November for us is part of winter, whereas for a lot of people they're like in deep fall in November. And then since we can get snow in May as well, I feel like our winter goes through April. I don't like counting May as winter because it just seems a little too far. But May might be like our 1 month of spring, and then June, July, August is like our summer. Okay, maybe 3 months of summer. And then fall is September, October, and then so forth. Anyway. I digress. But yeah, so we had our first snow, so that was really nice. And then I sewed up some snowy themed masks for our kids. I'll pop a picture of it on the screen here. They're super cute and they fit them really well, so that's nice. My kids are in 3rd grade and kindergarten, and currently, even though we're still in a pandemic, schools have reopened, so we've been in person full-time since the start of the school year in September, and so far they're doing okay. We had a little bit of a scare, was it last week? Yeah, last week there was a positive COVID exposure, so our family, we all took the PCR tests and they all came back negative, so we're okay. Everybody is required to wear a mask, and so I think currently they're saying even if you were in close contact, but if everybody was wearing a mask, they're not requiring everybody to quarantine, just the person that tested positive and anybody else that like was in even closer contact, I guess. I don't know. So that's the rules right now on how we are following things. We did print out a screening sheet that we're supposed to go over basically every morning to see, you know, if you're well enough to go to school or if you need to stay home and take a test. And currently, even if you have a cold, you need to test negative for COVID before you are allowed to return to school. But yeah, I think everybody's doing the best that they can, and we're hanging in there. And my kids don't complain about wearing a mask. They find it comfortable, especially when it's cold. It blocks the wind, and I've been making them more like seasonally fun ones and ones they can match their outfits to and just different things like that, because I mean, you're wearing it all the time, you might as well make it fun, and it's an accessory basically that they can match with their outfits. So yeah, I can link in the description box below the mask pattern that I follow. I do not sell them. I just make them for personal use, like for my family and stuff. But yeah, we really like this fit. This particular pattern has multiple sizes and options if you're going to include like a channel for like a nose wire or something. I don't do the nose wire thing. I just find it a little annoying for like washing and stuff. I was previously using like cut up old t-shirts to do loops around the ears and just do a knot, but it made it really hard to adjust, especially after washing. Sometimes it shrinks up a little because they're cotton. So I've been recently replacing all of them with the elastic ones that have that little adjuster knob in the back where it just kind of fits over the loop, and then you can make it longer or shorter. And then I have a ribbon, I think is it 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch, I can't remember right now, ribbon that I put cam snaps onto at the ends, and they attach to the back of the ear loops as kind of like a lanyard. So our kids are required to wear their masks all the time at school. The only time they don't wear them is during snack and lunch, and then it's optional during recess outside. So far, they've been able to have their snack time outside as well, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, so it just gives them a place to kind of wear it and hang on to it instead of, you know, taking it completely off, trying to find a pocket or whatever the case may be. So that's where we are on that. Yeah, I think, let's see. I have a lot of finished projects to share with you today. Though I mentioned slowing down recording, I did not slow down on my making. A lot of them are gift knits. Yeah, a lot of them are gift knits, and yeah, let's just jump right in. And I do have, I think, 2 works in progress to share with you today as well. In my mug today, I have pumpkin spice rooibos tea, and it's delicious. Yeah, what do you have in your mug? Is it something cold? Is it something hot? What do you enjoy this time of year for you, depending on what hemisphere you're on? Although I guess, you know, I drink hot tea all year round, so it doesn't matter if it's hot or cold, but granted, if it's like really hot, I might go for something iced instead of hot. But yeah, so let's get to it. The first finished project I'd like to share with you is a test knit. I tested the Marled Family hat by Julie of Twin Stitches Designs, and it releases this week, and it is a really fun hat pattern. It comes in, I think, 5 sizes. And you use US 6 or 4mm and US 8 or 5mm needles. It is knit at a looser gauge, and it is super fun. So, as the pattern suggests, it is marled, and if you've been watching for a while, you know I love a good marl. It is so much fun because you're creating a new fabric, and there's kind of dimension within the fabric as the yarn, depending on which one is in the front or the back, basically. And when I mean front and back, I don't mean you're like holding the yarn front and back. I just mean like how it pops up in the stitch in the fabric, because you're holding the yarn double. So you're holding fingering weight yarn double. So this is the first one I knit. I use Knit Picks Felici. Is it Felici or Felici? I always want to say Felici, but I don't know actually. So I used Knit Picks Felici in the colorway Punky. It is their self-striping yarn. And then I held it double with Yarn Dyed by Gwen of Bella Filato Studio. And both of these yarns are 75-25 superwash merino nylon blends. And I used up a total of 60 grams. So you have this beautiful long ribbing on the bottom. And it's designed for you to be able to wear it with the brim folded up or not. This one I knit in the adult small size. I won't try it on for you. I have a lot of hair, so we will see how this goes. There we go. So this is with it folded. Let me see if I can show it to you. With it not folded and more of a slouchy look. There we go. So, really fun. And then I knit a second one. This one I decided to knit the ribbing a little bit shorter so it can still be folded up, but I just didn't feel like doing all that ribbing, so I just made it shorter. So the length that I lost in the ribbing, I just knit more in the hat body. This is also the adult small. And there it is on. And that's folded. And then I will show it slouchy, not folded. There we go. It is so comfy. I really like it. I don't know if it's blowing out a little bit with the light here. It's kind of a partly cloudy-ish day, so the sun is coming kind of in and out. But yeah, this one I also held Knit Picks Felici, and this one, well, I think the self-striping yarn was called Pinwheel. I think it's Pinwheel. And then I held it double with Knit Picks fingering, I think Swish. Yeah, Swish fingering, and that's 100% superwash merino. And it's it was their Bear, which is like undyed, that I dyed with red wine. And it came out to be this really pretty brown. That came out so pretty. And then, of course, can't stop there because it's such a great gift knit because your fit doesn't have to be exactly right, especially when it's so stretchy, which is wonderful for gift knits. So I have a third one here. This one I am knitting in, oops, Knit Picks Stroll fingering in Rainstorm Heather. Here's the ball band on the screen. And this is a 75-25 fine superwash merino wool, 25% nylon. And I'm holding it double with a Malabrigo single ply. And I can't remember the colorway of this one, but it has beautiful blue speckles on it. And I used this yarn in a test knit for Tina when I made the Golden Horizon sweater. And it is Malabrigo yarn Machita in Piano. That's the colorway. I knew it was an instrument or music related, but I couldn't remember exactly. So let me show you how it is knitting up. Oh, and here's Rainstorm Heather. So it's this beautiful teal, heathered teal. So I have a solid heathered color and a heavily speckled color, and I am on the ribbing section right now, and I have a little polymer clay charm that I made. It's a mushroom with a little door. So this is how the ribbing looks. Isn't that a beautiful fabric? I just love the look of marled yarn. It is so fun. Now, if you have any Advent yarn, mini skeins, leftover skeins from other projects, I think this is a really good project to use those in because it doesn't use up a ton of yarn, but let's say you're knitting socks and you have, 60 grams left over or 30 grams left over or whatever the case may be, you can hold it together with another yarn. Or if you have enough and you don't want it super marled, like maybe you have a highly variegated yarn that you want to kind of break up the pooling or variegation in, you can also just hold that double like a single skein and knit one of these hats. So highly recommend this pattern. The next two finished projects I'd like to share with you are the Christmas sweaters that I knit for our daughters. They are the Flax Sweater by Tin Can Knits. It is a free pattern, so well written, and a classic. I knit the worsted weight version, but I held fingering weight double for more marling. And I just adore how they turned out. So, let me get my pattern printout here. I usually print out my patterns because I get eye strain from looking at a screen. I do get ocular migraines and I just try to limit my screen time. So if possible, I print out a pattern and I highlight my sections or my sizes that I am knitting on. I can mark things off as I do them and it just works out better for me. And I don't have to rely on something that has to be plugged in or needs batteries or whatever in order to make something. I also find it less distracting. So to have like a paper version versus having, you know, your phone or your laptop where you can do a million other things or there's like notifications and whatever. Side tangent. Okay, I was talking about the pattern. So something I really love about Tin Can Knits patterns is that they always have schematics, and that is really helpful to me as a visual learner and someone who kind of likes to know where all the pieces fit together before I start, or even when I'm working on a project, because I want to know what something is supposed to look like or what something is supposed to do while I am making it. Can you tell I am not someone who likes mystery knit-alongs, mystery make-alongs? I do not like those because I am a planner. I also like to know, well, like I said, I like to know what's going on. So I will show you the schematic here. This is how the flax sweater is constructed. You start from the neckline and you work your way down. There is this raglan shaping, and there's a detail, this kind of like a garter, what do they call it, garter panel detail along the shoulders that will go down the sleeves. And yeah, that is the flax sweater. And as always, the Tin Can Knits patterns are very size inclusive. This one starts at 0 to 6 months and goes up to a chest circumference of 66 inches. Another thing I really like about Tin Can Knits patterns is they give you measurements of your finished garment as well as approximations for yardage needed. And that is so helpful when you are purchasing yarn or trying to figure out what you have on hand, if it's going to be enough, or if you are going to be mixing, matching, like marling, like I'm doing, like what should I have on hand to make this work? And I think that is a, what is the word I'm looking for? Not frugal, not resourceful, pragmatic? Maybe it's like a very, I feel like it's a very, yeah, maybe pragmatic is the right word, way to work on projects. You may not always have things on hand, and that's okay too, but to know whether or not you need to spend an extra however many dollars on another 50 or 100 grams of yarn is important, right? Like I don't like getting extra of things just in case I need, 10 grams of it. Not saying I won't use the other 90, because I find ways to use all my yarn, because I don't believe that yarn, like once you use it for a project, it's done with. Like it's, yeah, that's not how I work. But yeah, I think it's really helpful to know how much yarn you might need for a project. Of course, your gauge may vary. Of course, if you make modifications, things will change. But having more information to go into a project with is, for me, only going to be beneficial. So, the gauge on this pattern is 18 stitches by 22 rounds and 4 inches of stockinette using larger needles. Needles recommended are US 6, which is 4mm, and US 8, which is 5mm. Those are the same needle sizes that I needed on the hats, so I was kind of like going back and forth between projects for a little bit. But thankfully, I do use interchangeable needles, which mean you can unscrew the needle from the cord and put like stoppers on the cables, and then you can like move things around if need be. So, we'll start with this one. Dun 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 dun! This beautiful Seafoam Minty Green Marled Flax is for our 8-year-old. I knit the 8 to 10-year-old size for this one, and there was an addendum to the pattern to add short row shaping in the back, and I did do that. You can kind of tell here, it's not super obvious, but it's in this blue marled stripe section, and the blue marled stripe section is slightly thinner in the front than in the back, because the short row shaping is in that part. I just love it. I used one main solid seafoam green color for the entire body, and then for the sleeves I had 2 different speckled yarns that I figured I would be able to use and divide up into the sleeves and knit all the way until it was basically gone. And that is really satisfying to me. If you've watched previous episodes, you might know that I've made this analogy to putting leftover food in like containers to put in the fridge. It's really satisfying to like get everything in that container, close the lid, nothing squishing out. It's like just right. Yeah, that's the same feeling I get when I use up all of my yarn. I think let's see, how much did I have left? Not very much. I think for the sleeves, I used up all but 1.5 grams of one of the colors that I put in here. The 2 yarns, speckly yarns that I used on the sleeves are dyed by Colleen of Little Lion Head Knits. They're both yarns that I'd used in socks previously, and I think one was called Come September and the other one was called Garden Gnome, and they just blended so beautifully together. I'm gonna hold it up closer so you can see the speckles. And then in the body, I have some minis in here that are from Sweet Sparrow Yarns Advent from last year. I also have some minis in here that were gifted to me by Beth of Witty Knittin'. And I have some sparkly minis in here that are from a mystery mini set that I bought from River of A Knitter's Homestead, and there's just so many fun memories knit into fabric. Like, it's, you know, people say, oh, it's so much more than just knitting, and it really is. Like, you're creating these fabrics of memories, and then when your children wear them and you see it and they love it and it's keeping them warm, and it's so much more than just knitting. It's amazing. So this is not a surprise. Our daughter has tried it on already and she absolutely loves it. It is slightly big on her, which is what I wanted, versus too small. I might do a slip stitch crochet edge on this neckline. It's slightly big on her, this part, I think. I think the weight of the sleeves, since I did use superwash merino yarn, I think it just pulls it down a little bit more, versus if you use like a non-superwash yarn, it probably will be a lot lighter. But yeah, I used a total of 300 grams of fingering weight total to knit her sweater. I love it, and she loves it, and that makes me happy. So if you have more than one child, you might know that if you knit one something, the other one might want something too. Or maybe you have children that are different and one doesn't like knits and one does. But mine both love everything that I make, and they are super, super knit-worthy, and I can only knit so fast to accommodate their requests. But here is our 5-year-old's Christmas sweater. Oh, I love it! We jokingly call the other one the wintry flax and this one like the sunshine flax. But this one I knit in the 6 to 8-year-old size. And it is so beautiful. I adore it. A bunch of the minis in here were also gifted by my friend Beth, and I love them. I love how the speckles are showing up. And so for this one, I gathered a bunch of like yellow, pinks, and peachy colors together. And then the main yarn that I held throughout the entire thing is another yarn dyed by Colleen of Little Lion Head Knits in the Sunny Side Up colorway. And to finish off the sleeves, I just held that yarn double. So I'm going to hold it up closer here. It's kind of a beautiful light pale yellow with blue, deeper yellow, orangey speckles in it. I also did the short row shaping on this one, so it's in this pink line here. So this is the front, and here is the back. So you can maybe tell that the pink section is a little bit bigger in the back, and that's because that's where the short row shaping was done. So you do the short row shaping after you complete all the raglan increases. And she requested a short sleeve one because she wanted to be able to wear long sleeves underneath, and she was worried that just in case she got itchy or too hot, she wanted to be able to just layer it. And yeah, so this is her beautiful Christmas sweater. And I did want to get these done before Christmas because I would love to have them start wearing them just as soon as they want to. My plan or my deadline was preferably by December 1st so they could start wearing them December 1st. But then if that one didn't happen, then by Christmas. But really, life is short, so if I'm done and they want to wear them, they can wear them. I forgot to mention, I used, I think 100 grams. Or no, yeah, almost 100 grams of that main color, and it did start with more than 100, I think, to start, and then my total must be close to 200. My total was 172 grams for the entire sweater, and then the body circumference ended up to be about 25 inches, which does give her a little bit of positive ease, and yeah, I don't think she's tried this on yet. I feel like she tried it on when I was still working on the body, which meant I hadn't done the sleeves yet. And then it took some time to dry because it is fingering weight held double, and then the fabric is basically double the thickness when you're laying it flat to dry and there's no air going through it. So it took, I feel like a few days to really, really dry. So I don't think she's tried it on since I finished. So that'll be exciting to see her try it on. Alright, the next finished project I'd like to share with you are a pair of socks. Dun, 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 dun. Aren't they beautiful? I'm going to hold it up closer so you can see the color work there. So these socks are the Descent socks by Tina Koo. I'm going to put that name on the screen here. And I did make some modifications. It is a free pattern. What drew me to it was the color work. And there's more color work in the toe section, but I was kind of feeling overwhelmed by the closing in of the year and all the gift knitting I had to do, and I wanted to clear my needles, and I just knew that if I had to pay attention to a really long colorwork chart, that I just might not get through it. Like, it wasn't a long section of colorwork, but because the top of the foot and the bottom of the foot were different, and the bottom of the foot spells out Descent, there's like no repetition, right? It's like across the entire foot. I don't know, I couldn't do it. So, I just didn't do it. The yarn I used is the Farmer's Daughter Fibers 2021 Sock Squad Sock Set from October. And the colorway is Pucker Up. This is the 75-25 Superwash Merino Nylon blend. And this is the sock set. It had this taupey color as the contrast color, and this beautiful Merlot red wine color that has quite a bit of depth to it as the main color. I used US 1 or 2.25 millimeter 9-inch ChiaoGoo's for the main part, and then for the color work section I used US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter 9-inch ChiaoGoo's to knit that part. I prefer knitting my color work on circulars because I don't have any like intersections to work around or worry about my floats, and then also when I'm counting my repeats and stuff, I don't have to like stop to switch needles or anything. It just flows a lot smoother for me. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this. I did my cuff slightly different. The pattern also uses a folded cuff, but it's done a little bit differently. I just went ahead and did my Peekaboo folded cuff recipe. I think I did it just slightly longer. I will link to my tutorial for that in one of the corners up here if that is something you are interested in. Something else that drew me to this pattern is it uses a shadow wrap heel, but there's a mini gusset included with it, and I thought, well, that will be really fun to try. So I really enjoyed it. It was fun to do. So since I'm familiar with the shadow wrap heel already, I just had to put in this mini gusset. I'm going to hold it up real close and you might be able to see the increase and decrease stitches. It kind of makes like a V or right angle up here. So basically you will increase some stitches and then to create more room in this like instep or heel part, and then you'll decrease back down to the number of stitches you started with. And it's really comfortable. I mean, there's no pulling because there's that extra gap, extra fabric created there. And yeah, I think it's kind of a fun way to make this heel for those that might need a little more room. Now, I don't think I could do that if I was using like self-striping yarn, just with the way that you knit around. I mean, you could do it, it just wouldn't like keep the integrity of your stripes. So if that doesn't matter to you, then it doesn't matter. I think it works probably really well with a solid yarn or even speckled yarn for that. And then also I think, I'm not sure how you would do it if you were going to put in a contrast heel either, just again by the way you knit it around. So I think if you're going to use the same color as your main color for the heel, I think that works out pretty well. What else did I want to say about this one? Oh, I cast on the small size 60 stitch cast on. I ended up using 56 grams of the main color and about 12 grams of the contrast color for these socks. But I love them and they're so fun and they are very autumnal. Okay, I think I have 2 more finished projects to share with you. These are both sewing related. So the first one I'm going to share with you, well, they're both bags, but I am so proud of it. Ready? Isn't this so cheerful? I'm going to hold it up close so you can see the fabric pattern better. So I checked out a new to me local yarn shop. I think it opened in 2017, so it's hasn't been there for a long time, but I had just found it, and I bought this fat quarter there, and I turned it into a bag. And just a disclaimer, which I have to note in here, I feel like it kind of like makes things really chopped up, but somebody always asks and it's just easier to just say it. I am not a small business. I do not sell my bags. I do not have a tutorial for this. I am not going to be recording one. I do not follow a pattern. This is just me making bags for personal use because I enjoy doing it. And I have sewn basically my whole life. Ever since I could probably reach the pedal of a sewing machine. My mom sews, my grandma sews. It's something that just is in our family, and yeah, it's just something I enjoy doing. So now that I have that out of the way, and it's no like no hard feelings or anything. It's just there are people who you can pay to teach you how to sew things, and there's lots of YouTube tutorials and photograph like pictorial tutorials out there. If that is something that you wish to do. Also, there are lots of bag makers out there, so go support a small business who makes bags. Yeah, so I have these cute little cotton webbing tote handles on there, and there's a drawstring channel, and denim boxed bottom, because I love a good boxed bottom. I like my project bags to stand up because I use them as like a, I don't know, I guess people call it a yarn bucket or something. I mean, it's just basically my bag with the top flipped over so my yarn can be in it while I'm working on my project. And then with the remaining on my fat quarter, I sewed a tiny little drawstring project bag that I love. It's so cute. What I put in this one is like a cake of yarn basically, and then I can just pull it out from the top so it's not like rolling around all over the place, and it just keeps things a little tidier in here. I decided not to sew a pocket on the inside of this one, so I can, if I didn't want to put my yarn in here, I could put like my notions, ball bands, or whatever else, scissors, stuff like that, in this little bag as well. It's so cute. I just love it. I don't have a project in it currently, just because I'm trying to clear off my needles, if you couldn't tell. I have all these finished projects, and this is a recent finished project as well. But I'm sure there will be a fabulous project in here soon. Or maybe I'll save this bag for New Year's. I feel like the celebration of all these people on here feels like a good January cast on bag maybe. And also I feel like in January, when it's like really cold and gray all the time, that this burst of color might be just the pick-me-up that I need then. So January's not that far away. I think I will save it for that. So my second project bag that I made is very wintry, kind of vintage, cozy vibe maybe. I did the same thing with the tote bag and the drawstring. I did a maroon boxed bottom for this one, and this fabric I did not pick up at the local yarn shop. This I've had, I think I might have bought it through Etsy. I can't really remember. It wasn't a recent purchase, but I love it. It's got like kind of this dark red and light blue and cream drawings of like a bear wearing glasses and a little house and teacups and a rocking horse and tops and sailboats and branches, and I just really like the whimsy of it. And then I've had this kind of is it called calico? I don't know, this little floral red fabric I've had forever. It just pops up in a lot of different projects because I've had it forever. And yeah, so I love this bag. It's so cute. Now, maybe we'll go into our works in progress now because one of them is in this bag. So in this bag is my second half and half triangles wrap by Purl Soho. It is a free pattern and a lot of people have been making it. The Caddy Jacks podcast has been talking about it since last year when they started a knit along for the half and half wrap. And I have made one, which is behind me here. That one is my autumnal winter version, and it is knit in rosewood pink and rose granite. I've talked about it in many previous episodes as I was working on it and when I finished it, so I'll link to that in one of the corners up here on the screen. And this second one I am calling Deep Autumn, and I have knit it in dark iris and chestnut red, which I will just show you in a minute. I wanted to say that so I did some math to try to figure out a size that I would not have to break into a third skein for each color. So like I mentioned previously, it really bothers me if I have to like break into a new skein just for a little bit. And it saves money if you don't have to do that, right? If you don't have to buy that extra one, because it is, the way they have it on their website is for the large size, you need to buy 6 skeins of fingering weight yarn, and you don't use that third one of each color fully. I mean, again, your gauge may vary, but I don't think, like, even if you sized up in needle size, I don't think you would use all 6 skeins, but I don't know for sure. I shouldn't say stuff like that. Anyway, for me, with my gauge, using the recommended needles that are US 3, I didn't use much of the third skein on my first one. And so I wanted to see if I could get away with just buying 2 skeins of each color and doing a 4 skein wrap. So I did some math, and the large cast on is 260 stitches, small cast on is 190 stitches. I figured I would shoot for somewhere in between and see if I could make that work. So I decided to cast on 230 stitches, and just figuring out like how much yarn I had left over, how much yarn I used last time, I was pretty sure it would work. Now, would you like to know if it worked? Spoiler alert. Actually, it's not a spoiler because I was going to tell you right now anyway. It's not a secret. It worked! Yes! So, here is my dark iris that I have remaining. I'm so glad I didn't run out. I mean, it would have been okay. I would have figured something out, but I'm just really glad I didn't run out. I ended up with 19 grams left. Now, these skeins, I've never gotten one that has been under 100 grams or even just 100 grams. So these two, I think one was 106 and one was 108. So I ended up with 19 grams left. It's this beautiful heathered purple. It's a dark plummy purple. I love this color so much. Oh, I didn't tell you the fiber content. It's 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, 15% linen. It is the Pearl Soho's linen quill. Ball band is here up on the screen. $439 yards for 100 grams. So it is non-superwash, it is very lightweight, and I love it. Second color I'm using is this chestnut red. It's kind of a brown red color. Also beautiful in the color, and the linen that kind of pokes out gives it kind of a heathered look. So, as I was working on this one, I thought, okay, I think I could get my math to make it even more specific. Maybe not specific's the right word. Accurate? Precise? Ugh, I always get the accurate and precise part mixed up. I know like one means a little bit different than the other, and I remember seeing this like bullseye picture graphic thing to explain precise versus accurate. Like precise is maybe the decimal points, and accuracy is like if you can hit the bullseye. Is that right? Again, maybe I shouldn't be talking about things that I don't really know about, but anyway, I think that's right. Okay, back to the wrap. So, I have made another DPN cozy. So since I switched it out of my purple and black bag to this one, only because I switched to the red, and so then I wanted to kind of have the red part. Anyway, that's just me. I have made a DPN cozy, which doesn't have to be just for DPNs. And the inside is the same fabric as the outside of the bag. It's so cute! It just keeps things from getting tangled, basically. And I don't like the needles like poking into other things, and then I don't want to accidentally like pull out stitches, and anyway. So I have here, let's show you the front side. Although it's not really much different since it's garter all the way around, right? Dun 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 dun! So the purple is all done. And it is still a pretty good size, I think. It's hard to say how it compares. I mean, I guess from my math, I know how it compares, but it'll be a little bit smaller than the large. But since it's longer than the cable of my needles, I can't really stretch it out all the way for you to see. But I think this is going to still be a very wearable size. Like I know for the big ones, some people say it's a little bit too big to wear practically out. That sounds really weird. To wear as a practical piece. No, it's very practical. I guess it's really big. I don't know. Anyway, but I feel like the small size is like way too small for me because you can't really like wrap it around. You'd have to like pin it. It would just be like too much fabric right up in my neck to like make it kind of go around. So I wanted a medium size. So I think this will actually work out really well. So I have turned here for my second color, or joined, and I just love how it looks. I changed out my progress keeper. I had a crescent moon on here before, and now I have an oak leaf with this raw gemstone. Both of these Progress Keeper and stitch markers are by my friend Maria of Woolen Forest. Her Etsy shop is Forest Charm. I think it goes well with my naming of this wrap being Deep Autumn. And I just love these colors a lot, and I really like this knit. Miles and miles of garter is not for everyone, so I don't feel like anybody should have to feel pressured to make it just because everybody else is making it. I am not somebody that I feel like I'm not someone that has to make what everybody else is making. Like if a pattern's been out for 10 years and I want to make it, I'll make it because it doesn't matter, right? Like I don't know why I would always have to make the latest and greatest or whatever everybody else is making. I just don't feel that draw. But if there's something that I want to make that happens to be what everybody else is making, I'm not going to not make it because everybody else is making it. Does that make sense? I am I would say predominantly a product knitter. So you may hear people talk about process versus product knitters. And I do think, you know, we're a little bit of both because you do need to go through the process in order to have a product. But I think there are key differences. So I'm not going to make something unless I feel like that end result is something that I can see myself wearing, or maybe it's a gift knit, or there's like an end result to it. There's a purpose for it. There's like something that's going to happen when it's done, right? And I'm drawn to projects based on what the end result is. That being said, the process has to be enjoyable for me. If it is not, I will not make it. If the instructions are too difficult for me to follow at that time, I won't make it. If I'm gonna have to be ripping back a bunch of times, I probably will just scrap the project. Yeah, so that's just how I am. And again, that's also why I don't do like mystery make-along type of things in general, because I like to know what is happening, and I want to know if it is something that I'm going to wear or something I'm going to use. I've only done one, and that one was by Tina Say because I know her style, and I think from what she said the project was going to be like, I felt confident that I would enjoy it. And honestly, if I didn't, then I could stop, right? No one's making me keep going. Like, I don't know. So I thoroughly enjoy this project. It is something that I can pick up and put down whenever. It is something that I can work on when I'm helping the kids with reading, with hard words, because I can still pay attention to them, because I'm not like counting my rows or like figuring out if something's a yarn over or not, or getting frustrated because I'm tinking back because I messed up somewhere. It is literally just miles and miles of knit stitches, and I did substitute out the wrap and turns for German short rows because German short rows are my method of choice. And then for the edging, mine is not a garter edge. I am slipping that last stitch. So when you knit all the way to the end on the opposite side, is it right? The opposite side of the wrapped or turned stitch. So before I get to when I get to the very last stitch, I don't knit it. I bring my yarn, my working yarn forward, and then I slip my stitch purlwise from left to right needle, and then I flip it around, and then I pull that working yarn over, and I just start knitting again. The previous one, I did one with 3 slip stitches on one edge and 2 slip stitches on another edge, and this one I'm doing 1 slip stitch on the edge, and I really like it, so I'm just keeping with that. Personal preference. You can do whatever you want. Alright, last work in progress I'd like to share with you is in this patchwork project bag that I sewed up. I adore it. If you can't tell, I am an autumnal person, very much seasonal, but I just kind of love autumn year round. I love the color changes, I love the feel of the air, I love it all. And in this one, I have a pair of self-striping socks that I am knitting out of Michelle of Woolens and Nosh yarn. This is the Pressed Flowers colorway that is 75% superwash Corriedale and 25% nylon. It's a 3-ply, 383 yards for 100 grams. Here is the ball band on the screen. And this one comes with this mini, and it's kind of a taupey brown color. And then here is the progress on my socks. I have finished the cuff and leg and heel. I did a shadow wrap heel, and that is following the tutorial by Denise of Earth Tones Girl, and I did it in the contrast color there. Just did it in between stripes. And I'm continuing on with the foot. And I have both of them in identical spots, knit with identical striping sequins. So they are going in the same direction. Sometimes I end up winding the yarn so that goes in opposite, but since it's only a 3-stripe repeat, I was able to easily get them to start at the same time. I did cast on with my contrast color just for a few rounds, and then continued with my self-striping yarn. So these I am knitting on US 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter needle. I would love to have these done by the end of the month because I have like Christmas socks I want to knit. I did purchase for the first time self-striping Advent socks that I'm really excited about. I bought them from Michelle of Woolens and Nosh. She had put out a few sock sets, I guess it's a sock set, right? Later on, after her initial Advent sold out for like, what did she call them? Well, they were shorts, so like it wasn't a full 100 grams. It was, I think 80 maybe, and then it still came with a mini. And I don't usually use all 100 grams of, actually I've never used all 100 grams for a pair of socks for myself. So 70 grams, 80 grams, I'll take it. Even 50 grams I can do, it'll be a shorter sock, as long as there's a contrast color, I can make it work. So I was really excited to see that she had these discounted pricing, smaller skeins available for purchase. So I'm really excited to do those. If I can get these off in time, I would love to get a cuff started actually before December 1st. I don't know if that's considered cheating, but you know what? I can do whatever I want. And not only that, if I want to make my Advent knitting enjoyable, I'm going to do what works for me, right? Like there are no rules. Yeah, there are no rules. Besides, I will confess that I have looked at the colorway in the Advent skein already, and the reason I say that is because she had these, you know what, let me go grab it really quick. I'm just gonna go grab it real quick. Okay, I'm back. So Michelle had these really cute little bags made up for her Advent. It's this cute little canvas bag with the print on there. It says Woolens and Nosh 2021 Advent Skein, and it has this little button on top, and she had the yarn coming out the top so that you can get started and just pull from it and not see what color is coming up. Well, I looked and I'm not mad about it, but she had it coming out from the middle of the cake, and I don't like to pull that way because it really bothers me when the yarn gets all like messy and tangled, and I don't know, tangled yarn like makes me kind of stressed out. So I took them out and I wound it into a ball starting from the outside so that it would still start on the same color that everybody else is starting on. So I wound it into a ball, and so I got to see all the colors, and I'm pretty excited about it. So I'm not going to tell you anything else, and I'm not going to open it so that you don't see it because I don't want to spoil it for anybody else that doesn't want to see it. So yeah, so now I have them in 2 separate balls, all wound up, and I have one of them actually in like a little baggy too, so as they're in there, hopefully they don't like roll around into each other. Can you tell I really don't like tangled yarn? So yes, so they're both in individual balls. One is in like a small little baggie inside the bag so that as it rolls around it doesn't like tangle into the other one. So I will still start in the same color as everybody else, but I might cast on early just with a contrast color, and so I have my cuffs kind of ready to go. That's my plan. Yeah, I don't know if I'm even gonna share on social media, on like Instagram, because I don't want to ruin it for anybody. And yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. Are you knitting anything fun for December? Are you knitting self-striping socks? Are you knitting up some minis? What are you doing? And honestly, you don't even need like a specific advent or countdown calendar in order to participate in the fun. Really, you can knit on anything like you normally would throughout the year, just, you know, make it something special. So I have lots of things that I would love to cast on, but honestly, I don't want to overwhelm myself and end up with too many whips, which works in progress, to focus on anything. And I am somebody that usually has multiple projects going on simultaneously anyway, so that part doesn't bother me. I just want to really be able to enjoy what I'm doing and like work on things that, well, just work on things that bring me joy. They all do, but I would like more joy, less stress, right? And yeah, I think that is it for that. I think that was it. I think that was it. So in the beginning of the episode, I was going to tell you what I was wearing briefly, but I forgot. I am wearing the Studio 54 crop that I test knit for Shay Johnson of Knit and Crochet. I knitted out of Earl Grey Fiber Co. Oolong DK base, 100% superwash merino in the heirloom colorway. And this is from 2019. I'm going to stand up a little so you can see it. It's kind of got this like faux wraparound, and it's got a beautiful detail here on the shoulder. And what else? Long sleeves. Although, you know, initially my sleeves ended shorter, and I went back and took out the bind off and knit a longer ribbing, and I can still like fold it up if I want it to be more 3/4 length sleeve, but I also have the ability to have full length sleeves if I want to. I think that is all I wanted to say about that. Oh, my feet. I have on socks. Let's see. I always do this, and it's never a good idea, but I do it anyway. These are the High Desert socks by Lindsay of Larkspur Knits. I think this is my first pair that I made of this pattern. I think I've knit like maybe 10 renditions of this pattern. It is probably my most repeated pattern. I have no issues with knitting a pattern more than once. I know some people have said they don't like to knit a pattern more than once, but I feel like if you find a really good staple, why not knit it more than once, especially if you enjoy making it. And it comes in a big range of sizes. Some of it has felted a little over time just because it's been worn a lot and washed a lot, and it makes it just even cozier, and I love them. My attire in the fall season into the winter is basically wool socks with black leggings tucked in, and on top it could be a dress, it could be, I don't know, something, and a sweater, and you know, if you go out, layer it on, shawl, hat, mitts, all of it. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. I'm looking at the piles down here around me to see if there was anything else that I forgot to mention. This is a long one today because it had been about 3-ish weeks, and I just had a lot to share with you. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are taking care of yourself and finding ways to slow down, like I mentioned in the previous episode. If there's anything you'd love to share, I would love to hear it in the comments below. Maybe it's something you're working on, maybe it's something that you have really enjoyed lately, maybe you're decorating for the holidays if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, maybe you're getting ready for summer if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. Yeah, just kind of let me know what you are up to. So with that, cheers to being creative. I hope you are doing well, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.